Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deandra Vaughn if you are new here, and if you are not new here, then welcome back to the Clique. So I'm back with the continuation of The Ultimatum Season 2 reactions. So in this episode, we're going to do episodes 2 and 3. And while I do that, I'm just going to get ready. I'm going to do my makeup. I'm going to take my hair down. It's just in 4 braids right now. We're going to do like a little braid out while we talk. Alright y'all, so episode 2 picks up exactly where the last one left off. So we saw that Lisa mushed her partner Brian in the face, and then she walks off and tells him to go talk to Raya. So y'all, she's like so mad. She storms outside and he's like following after her. And she just keeps saying she's going home. She's cursing him out, just going off about how Raya has nothing to offer him and he can't learn anything from her. Basically, she's mad because she doesn't really think that Raya is there for the right reasons. You know, she feels like since Raya received the ultimatum, she's not as serious about her partner Trey as Lisa is about Brian. She's like, I wouldn't even be mad if you chose Roxanne, like at least she's a boss chick, but you chose Raya. And ultimately, I kind of feel like Lisa is a little bit threatened by Raya because Raya is a fellow black woman, and I think she's like, if Brian's head is going to be turned by anybody, it's going to be Raya. And that's what's making her really, really mad. So at this point, she's still going off. She is all up in his face, telling him to go talk to Raya. It was just a hot, hot mess. So meanwhile, inside, everyone is just like, well, that was awkward. They're all discussing that Lisa's behavior was really uncalled for, and they're like, we should all just be understanding of this process. And I mean, I'm like, y'all are right. Like, Lisa did know what she was getting herself into when she came on this show, but I think it's normal to feel some emotions. Like the fact that the majority of y'all are just sitting there laughing and talking like everything is all cool, that's a little weird to me. So Brian is kind of over the whole situation. I don't think he really wants to hear them talking about his girl Lisa like that. So he gets up and walks away. So now it's just the non-black people left. And they're just like, well, it's just us now. Ha ha ha. It's funny. So Trey is talking to the camera. And he's just like, I mean, we all know what this experience is. We came on here to learn, but this is hard. And I appreciated Trey in this moment because I'm just like, the rest of them are just being very, very unrealistic. And he's being real. He's being vulnerable, and it's like, this is a hard situation. I don't know how they're just acting like this is easy, because it's not. So then Raya walks up and she's like crying. She hugs him and she's just saying like, this has been so hard for me. She tells him she's been crying every single day. And then she goes off to the bathroom and cries more and just is like, she doesn't really feel like she's good enough for him. And I just thought this was kind of funny because right after that, she has like a little talk with the cameras and she's like, I mean, I can tell that Lisa really loves Brian, but I can't help it. Like, me and him just flow really naturally. So it was just kind of like, girl, you aren't that sad about Trey. Like, come on now. So Brian says that he loves Raya, but basically he's just questioning if they're really right for each other, especially since he's making connections with other people and it's coming pretty naturally, which he wasn't really expecting that. And he just wants both of them to really lean into the experience. So now it's 3 days until the choice. Roxanne and Alex are on a date. Alex says that Roxanne and his partner Kat are like complete opposites. Roxanne is very bold, whereas Kat is more reserved and lets him just take the lead. And I definitely picked up on that. Like, Kat definitely seems like she just kind of goes with whatever, whereas Roxanne is like, she's gonna speak her mind. So Alex tells Roxanne that he loves intelligence because it's challenging and he likes to be challenged. And they talk about how they get kind of nervous around each other. Alex says he wants marriage, but he just isn't ready yet. So Roxanne talks about being scared of marriage because she just thinks that marrying somebody might slow her down. And to me, this really just sounds like she has a fear of commitment. Because if you're with the right person, you're not going to be concerned about them slowing you down because they're going to add to your success. They're going to motivate you to work harder and to keep going. So I don't know. I just feel like she's trying to find just different ways to say that I'm scared of the commitment of marriage. So Roxanne talks to the cameras and she says that Antonio and Alex are complete opposites. And y'all, I know that Alex basically said that exact same thing, but the way Roxanne said it just sounded way more harsh and rude to her original partner. She's like, I just have a deep connection with Alex. He's not like Antonio at all. He has everything all figured out. He has his businesses. He has investments. And I'm just like, girl, you are doing a whole lot. Like, when Antonio watches this back, he's definitely going to feel away. So Antonio and Kat are on their date. They talk about how difficult it is to watch their ex-partners getting close to other people. Antonio talks about how Roxanne is much more successful than he is, which has been an issue for him. And you can tell that this is something that is an insecurity for him. And I think he's already insecure about it, but the fact that Roxanne is probably constantly throwing it in his face because she brings it up multiple times on this show. I think the fact that she's always throwing it in his face just makes it even worse for him. And so I definitely can see why that would be an issue. So they're both talking about how finances are one of the main reasons why people get divorced. And I'm like, yeah, hence why you should discuss those things before you get married. So Kat says she thinks living with Alex would push her out of her comfort zone. And Alex is like, you know, this is the best date that they've had. And I'm just like, y'all, I'm just going to be honest. I don't see any chemistry between Kat and Alex. Like, they definitely give friendship, brother, sister vibes, but that's about it. So Raya and James are on a date now. Surprisingly, they actually have some chemistry. They seem like an unlikely pair at first, but something about them really works. They talk about how they both come from similar backgrounds and being raised by a single mother. They talk about how their dads, they weren't really close with their dads. They didn't have a close relationship with them. And James actually starts tearing up during this conversation because his dad passed away. And Raya was like really there for him. She asks, you know, do you want to hold hands? And they hold hands and he starts to feel a little bit better. And this was just like a really sweet moment. I feel like in the first episode, Raya came off a little superficial, kind of selfish. But in this moment, I can really see like her soft, caring side. And so I really liked it. So then they talk about making the choice. James asks if she's ever lived with anyone. And she's like, yeah, me and Brian have been living together for over a year, but he's the first one that I've ever lived with. And James tells her that he's never lived with anybody before. So that's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic goes, but they're cute. So now we're one day until the choice. Raya and Brian have their date. She admits that she's confused because he's just giving her some mixed signals. Brian is talking and saying how everyone is connecting with different people in different ways. And I'm just like, I feel like Brian kind of says stuff that he thinks just sounds good, but really he just be saying things that are really, really vague. And this was one of those moments. And he just, I don't know, he just doesn't really seem like he's that into the conversation. He's kind of just being real dry. He says, you know, you're a good listener and all that, but it's still giving that he's distant and thinking about other things. Probably Lisa. But anyways, she asks why he doesn't want to be married, and you know, he's sticking to his finances reason, which we don't believe. But he asks her if she expects her man to handle all the finances, and she's like, you know, I don't mind splitting the bills, but he needs to be the one paying the rent, paying the mortgage. And she tells him, you know, I don't need too much. And he like immediately kind of clocks her. He's like, are you sure? Like, you might not need a lot, but do you want a lot? Because she gives off high maintenance. Raya definitely seems like she's a little bit on the high maintenance side. And she's like, no, I don't need a lot, blah, blah, blah. I'll just swipe my credit card, you know, whatever. So then she shares her story about being pregnant and having a miscarriage 2 years ago. So essentially she wants kids, but she's afraid of going through that experience again. And this explains why she got so emotional on the first episode when she and Trey were talking about having kids. I knew it was something to that, and so I'm glad that this was brought out in this episode. So this is definitely a difficult situation, because if he wants kids, that's something that they would definitely have to work through. And I think Raya definitely needs some counseling to just work through those feelings. I feel like she hasn't fully healed from her miscarriage, and she hasn't healed from the fear of that happening again. So if she and Trey decide to stay together, I think couples counseling would also be great for them, just so that Trey can learn more about Raya's experience and kind of learn how to support her through these feelings that she's dealing with. But regardless, Raya needs some individual counseling for sure. So Raya says she has a hard time saying that she loves people, even Trey. She feels like she's missing something with him, and it's like, girl, we can tell. It seems very, very one-sided. Like, it seems like he's definitely more into her than she is into him. So next, Trey and Lisa are on their date. She says she feels a lot better now after her outburst. She just felt triggered because she and Brian are just not on the same page. She talks about how she was kind of rude to Raya, and she's kind of like being apologetic because, you know, Trey, I'm sure, didn't love that she was feeling that way about his girl, but she's like, you know, she was trying to talk to my man, so I ain't like that. And Trey's like, yeah, you a gangster. But he says that he appreciates that, you know, she's passionate and she's not afraid to show her emotions, and he really admires that. And she gets up and she hugs him, and she's like, I appreciate you for saying that. I think she really needed somebody to support her at that moment, and he was there to offer that. So that was nice. He asks her how she feels about their dates, and she's like, I hate that I'm actually enjoying them. And he agrees. He feels like maybe he's been forcing things with Raya, and I'm just like, yeah, child. Like, it definitely looks like you are trying to force this girl to marry you when she is just not ready. He says that he and Raya don't really have much in common. She's into a lot of makeup, and he just like doesn't care about any of that. So Lisa says that she grew up a tomboy, so she never really cared about makeup and all that. She just started caring about it like in the last few years. She played a lot of sports growing up, and he's like, wow, we have a lot in common. So, I mean, they're feeling each other. He calls her gorgeous, and she says she loves that he knows what he wants, and she feels like he would make a great husband. So they seem to have nice chemistry, like they could be compatible. So Trey is talking to the cameras and he's just like, I'm confused because I like Lisa, but I also like Ryan. So on Ryan and Trey's date, Trey is telling her like, I can't really tell if you like me. Like, I like you, but I don't know if you like me. And she's like, yeah, I do like you. I don't really show a lot of emotions. And he was like, yeah, everybody else has gotten emotional but you. And she's just like, yeah, I mean, I just don't cry. Like, this experience has been hard for me too, but I'm just not going to show it in that way. He says that they're both very similar with the way they were raised and what they want family-wise. They both talk about how they just don't want to wait any longer for marriage. Like, they're ready right now. They kind of seem like they would be a weird couple at first, but yet they kind of work in a weird way because they do actually have a lot in common, and he's definitely really attracted to her and she seems like she feels the same way, so there's some chemistry there. All right, so now it's time for the choice. So everyone is there with Nick sitting at the table except Brian and Lisa. And at first I was just like, oh Lord, they left, because Lisa kept saying that she was going to leave, so I just thought, yeah, she was like, I don't want to do this anymore, we're out of here. But Nick says, I know y'all noticed that Brian and Lisa are missing and they decided to remove themselves. We asked if they wanted to come and tell you guys why they left and they declined, so I'll do it. I'm just like, Nick is loving this. So Nick is like, Lisa took a pregnancy test and it came back positive. And that's how the episode ended. So now we can move on to episode 3. So this episode starts off with Lisa sitting on the couch talking to Brian and basically announcing to him that she's pregnant. And y'all, I'm not going to lie, Brian looked mad. Like, he looked pretty disappointed, but he also looked a little bit angry. And he even was like, wait, so you're having my child? And she's like, well, of course it's your child, don't play with me. But yeah, he looked pretty shocked. And he's just like, okay. And he tries to put on a smile and they hug. And he says like he just doesn't know what this means for them because it's going to change a lot of things. She acknowledges that a baby is not going to fix their issues. And I'm like, I'm glad that you know that, because one thing a baby is not going to do is help your relationship get stronger. It's just not going to do that. But she says that she still wants to get married one day, but it doesn't have to be immediately. So then he goes, oh, so does that mean I'm off the hook for the ultimatum? And she's just like, boy. And he's like, oh, bad timing, bad timing. But he was serious though. He is not trying to get married to her anytime soon. So in her confessional, she says that she expected this experience to end with Brian proposing, which clearly is not going to happen now. But she hopes that the pregnancy will help him see that she's who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. And honestly, this whole situation was just kind of sad, y'all. Like, I do not think that them having a baby is going to convince him to marry her. And it's kind of sad that she's even hoping for that, even though she's trying to say that she's not. We all know that that's what she's hoping for. And he ends the scene by saying, the baby does not change how he feels about marriage right now, and it's just going to complicate things. So that was it for them. We're rooting for y'all, but yikes. So now it flashes back to Nick and the rest of the couples. They're just sitting at the choice table. Trey says, I'm not surprised that they didn't show up because Lisa was just acting very kind of like erratic at the cocktail party. Roxanne says, she just thinks his experience was a lot more than Lisa expected. And they kind of go around and talk about that situation more around the table. And Alex is like, I wonder if she knew. And everybody's just kind of like, like making these faces. I'm assuming he means he wonders if Lisa knew she was pregnant. And I'm like, I hope that girl did not come on this show knowing she was pregnant. But you know, that might have been the case. I don't know. So now it's finally time for them to pick their new partners. Trey goes first and talks about how beautiful, sweet, and caring Ryan is. He talks about how they grew up similarly with a structured family, whereas Raya grew up in a completely different environment. And I was just like, you didn't really have to put all her business out there like that. Like, that seemed a little bit uncalled for. And Raya just looked really, really uncomfortable when he was saying this. But anyways, he chooses Ryan. So then Ryan says, you know, she immediately knew how similar they were. She calls him basically the boy version of her. And during this, like, James and Raya, they're like showing them at the table, and they both just look stressed. So Ryan says that she and James are opposites, and he tries to go against a lot of the things she says, whereas Trey is more agreeable and he just agrees with her a lot more. And Trey is just over there like smiling, like he is loving this. It was really awkward. But anyway, she also chooses him back, and Raya says, you know, she knew that Trey was going to pick Ryan because when she leaves, she looks for him, but she feels like when Trey left, he looked for Ryan. And I was like, that's kind of sad. So Raya continues on by saying, you know, that she feels like there's just been a brick on her chest and she's just been really emotional. She talks about how she has a lot of walls up and it's really hard to like break those down, but she appreciates how James has opened up to her because it makes her want to open up as well. And she likes that she can just be like vulnerable around him and doesn't have to feel judged. And she stands up and chooses James, of course. So she says he made her realize that she does want marriage and she does want to have kids, and it's easy to picture that with him. And I was just like, geez, like, I know Trey felt that. Like, I felt that for him. And he and Ryan both looked pretty sad. Trey's like, you know, hearing all this is making him question himself and their relationship. And yeah, that was kind of heartbreaking a little bit. So then James goes. He says, you know, I've always struggled with opening up to people, especially with Ryan, but it came much easier with Raya because she just listened and made him feel heard. And then he stands up and picks Raya. And then now Ryan speaks up and she's just like, James, me and you have been together for so long and I've been like an open book, but it's so hard to get anything out of you. It's hard for me to like get you to talk about certain things, especially your past. And she just doesn't really understand why, especially after 7 years of being together. And then Kat chimes in and she's like, you know, we're learning a lot about ourselves, which is one of the things that I was worrying about coming here. And she's like, I see myself marrying Alex, but I just want to be sure that we're right for each other. And she says that Antonio just made her feel really, really comfortable. And they talked about things that she and Alex never talked about. And I was just like, that's weird. I don't know, like, it's just weird hearing stuff like that. Because, like, me and my fiance talk about everything. So I'm just like, how is that even a thing? But anyway, Antonio is like, you know, I appreciate my effort being recognized. And Kat stands up and chooses Antonio. Antonio says a good wife has to have good communication, and he likes that he's able to really open up to her. And Roxanne is just like, well, that's hard to hear because I've only experienced your introverted side. And then here go the guys. They're like, wow, well, he's been really extroverted around us guys too. And I'm just like, now why would y'all say that? And so Roxanne is like, well, maybe you just don't feel comfortable being yourself around me. And he says it might just be because he's afraid to take chances with her because he's just so afraid of losing her. And I feel like he's basically saying like that he kind of walks on eggshells or gives her a more mild version of himself because she is a little bit more confrontational and she has a very strong personality, and he probably just doesn't want to get into it with her. But anyway, he chooses Kat. And Alex is like, well, I'm really glad y'all are together. Like, I'm super excited for y'all. And Kat is like, you're supposed to be jealous. And I got like secondhand embarrassment for her. I was just like, girl, he does not care for real. Like, don't point out the fact that he does not care. Like, why are you doing that? It was cringy. All right, y'all. So I had a client that I had to jump online for. So if the lighting or if anything looks a little bit different, that's why. But I'm back now. So so after that cringy moment with Kat, Roxanne says that she's really excited for Antonio to experience somebody that's sweeter and less intimidating. Because, you know, Kat is like a really, really sweet, soft person. Alex says, you're the complete opposite of my ex. But then Alex starts talking about Kat, and he says how she's the complete opposite of Roxanne. Kat is super sweet and nice, and Roxanne, you're not. Like, he didn't say that specifically, but in so many words, that's what he said. He's like, Roxanne is very forward and very direct. She's super smart. And he likes that she's just so independent, and he just enjoys that type of energy. So he gets up and he chooses Roxanne. Kat kind of awkwardly like raises her hand, and she's like, I have something to say. She's like, I literally didn't know that there was an issue with like my personality. Like, I didn't know that there was something missing. So you should figure that out. And it's like, yeah, he should. So Roxanne starts off by saying that she and Alex connect in a lot of different ways. She says, you know, that she knows he's ready for marriage, but she feels like he's just waiting to find somebody who's has all the right qualities that he wants. And she talks about his businesses and how she loves his ambition and how that's so important to her, which we all know. And she calls him the literal perfect person. And then she gets up and chooses him. Yeah. So this next part was really, really weird. So like the music got really dark and dramatic. And James like turns his chair towards Trey. And he's just like, I just want to say something to you, Trey. And everybody's like, okay, like what is he about to say? And he's like, I just want you to understand that essentially we are trading partners. And it's like, James, everybody is trading partners. That's literally all y'all did, but okay. He's like, we are trading partners, but there's no ill will there between us. Obviously there's something lacking on all sides, so I think this will benefit all of us. And then there's like this pause where everybody's waiting on Trey's response, and Trey's just like, I agree. So you could tell Netflix was trying to kind of make that a moment, but it kind of fell flat because it was like there was nothing there. So all the couples have been chosen, and I really hate that Lisa and Brian left the show because basically all the rest of the cast just like switched and swapped partners. So it was kind of like boring. There was no real conflict there because we kind of all could predict who each person was going to choose. But you know, if Lisa had stayed on there, she would have shook it up. Her energy would have shaken that up. And Raya and Brian probably would have chosen Raya. It would have been a mess, but we don't get to see that. So now the trial marriages begin. Roxanne and Alex are in their new apartment, and she like takes off her heels, and he has like this big like moment about it, like, oh my gosh, you're a whole different person, like look how short you are. And I'm just like, okay, not too much on us short queens, all right, not too much. And they're talking about how they like to sleep, and he's like, oh, I like to sleep without any shirt on, and they're like, oh, well, the bed is so small, I don't know how that's gonna be. Like, they're just kind of like flirting back and forth. So I don't know, they have some chemistry. Kat and Antonio are talking, and Antonio says, you know, that he's insecure. Everything that he feels like he lacks, or everything that he's struggling with, Alex already has those things. Like, Alex is already an entrepreneur, he has all these businesses, and he's like, I feel like it's kind of the same for you, Kat. Like, I feel like all the things that you are insecure about, Roxanne already has them. And I'm like, not you speaking for her. But Kat agrees. She's like, yeah, I've been feeling kind of self-conscious about Roxanne. And so they're kind of like bonding over the fact that they're both insecure, and that they feel like their partners are linked up and probably about to leave both of them. Like, I think that's kind of like what they're talking about. And it is awkward, I will say. So Ryan and Trey are in their apartment. Trey is saying that Ryan is so gorgeous again, and he's just like, anything could happen. And to be honest, I don't really think anything too much is going to happen with these two. Ryan, I mean, she's been with James for 7 years, and that's like the only guy that she really has ever known or ever dated. So the chances of her doing anything with this brand new stranger is slim, but we'll see. He asks Ryan if she's excited about this, and you know, she says she is, but she does not look it. Like, her face was just very down, and she just looks kind of solemn, even though she says that she was excited. But you know, he's smiling, he's happy, and her face is just like, it's so weird. But anyway, they pour some champagne, they pop the champagne, and she perks up a little bit towards the end, and she starts smiling. But yeah, she definitely did not look happy. So Raya and James are a little bit awkward at first. James is like super nervous, and also really down, just like how Ryan was. But he says he's happy they picked each other. And Raya's like, okay, I hear you, but you seem really tense. Like, I love Raya because she's going to call it how it is, because that's exactly what I would have said. And he's like, yeah, no, like, I'm good. And she's just like, yeah, right. So we're going to see how that's going to go. So Antonio actually decides to blow up an air mattress and sleep on that. Because, you know, he's like, I know how I would feel if Roxanne was sleeping in the bed with someone else. And, you know, I don't want to feel that, so I'm not going to do that to her. Meanwhile, Roxanne is over there talking to Alex, and she's kind of talking bad about Antonio. Like, he's like, you know, what's the issue with y'all? And she's just like going down the list of things that he needs to work on. And she's being pretty flirty with Alex. Like, they're kind of talking about some sexual things. She says in her confessional that, you know, she feels like Alex just has a lot of the qualities that she needs, not wants, but needs. And Antonio should be worried. And then she's like, oh wait, was that bad? It's like, girl, yes. Like, when he watches this back, that is going to be, that's going to be hard for y'all to fix if y'all decide to stay together. But anyways, Ryan and Trey are in bed laughing and talking. You know, they have a little pillow fight moment. It was a cute little scene. Not too much there. It still is kind of friendly, but it's a cute scene though. James, on the other hand, is struggling, child. And Raya is like laying in the bed ready to go to sleep, and he comes in and he's like, I'm gonna go for a run. And she's like, this is weird. So James goes out and he's talking on the phone to his friend, and he's just like, I've been having all this self-reflection. He never thought about Ryan actually leaving him, and it's been so hard hearing another guy talk about how amazing she is, and it's just really bothering him. And it's like, imagine that. It took you 7 years to realize that, hey, maybe I got like a really good girl. And it took some other guy appreciating her, and also her appreciating another guy, for you to feel like maybe you should not have come on this show, or maybe you should have just proposed to her. Like, oh goodness. So he cries talking to the camera because, you know, he just feels so apart from her, and he's never felt this distant from her before. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. So we're gonna see what happens with these couples. Let me know how you guys felt about these episodes. Let me know which couples you're feeling. Just tell me all your thoughts. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and also join the Clique by hitting that subscribe button so that you can, you know, join the family. We'd love for you to be here, and I will see y'all in my next recap video. Bye.